Hello, my name is Alexandru Grigoras and I am a junior at NYU Shanghai, majoring in computer science. This summer, together with Professor Keith Ross, I worked on a research project named Mapping the Chinese Diaspora using WeChat. WeChat is a social media app used by over 700 million people worldwide, most of whom are ethnically Chinese. The purpose of this research project was to find out whether we could use an app such as WeChat in order to map a diaspora, in our case the Chinese diaspora, in a better way than we could have using traditional research tools such as surveys or censuses. WeChat has a feature called People Nearby, which allows a user to find any other users of WeChat in their immediate area and see their name, profile picture, gender, and 10 most recent posts. We were planning to use this feature in order to analyze the Chinese population that we could find in various cities across the world. The first main part of this project was the data collection. For this, we initially had 3 different methods in mind: intercepting the network traffic between the app and the WeChat servers, reverse engineering the WeChat app, and hooking the app's internal methods. All of these techniques are quite difficult to implement, but they would give us direct access to the raw data that is used by WeChat. Unfortunately, due to WeChat's strong security, all of these attempts failed. We managed to intercept the network data, but due to multiple layers of encryption, we couldn't extract any useful information from it. We also managed to reverse engineer the app, but the code was too obfuscated to find any visible weakness. We also succeeded in injecting our own code into the WeChat app. However, the code was fragmented into thousands of classes spread over dozens of packages, making it virtually impossible to find the ideal spots for the injection that we needed. Thus, we realized that we needed a new plan. So we tried some less sophisticated techniques that were, however, more likely to give good results. Our new plan was comprised of 4 different steps. The first one is automation. We used an app called Appium in order to automate the use of WeChat directly on an Android device and take screenshots of the flow that we wanted to record. In order to discover the various WeChat users in several cities across the world, we used the GPS spoofing app on our Android device, which allowed us to change our coordinates and thus trick WeChat into believing that we are in the city we're currently analyzing. The first step was using an optical character recognition software, specifically Google's Tesseract OCR, in order to extract the raw information from the screenshots that we had collected. This step was particularly difficult because we had to deal with multiple languages, including Chinese. Once we had collected and extracted all the data, we could then move to our final step, which is the data analysis part, where we could analyze the data that we had, chart it in multiple ways, compare it against other data sets, extend it, and draw the conclusions that this research project was aiming for. This time, every single step went exactly as planned, which means that this method was entirely successful. Now let's take a look at our data. The screenshots we collected were mainly divided into 2 main categories. The first one, as we can see on the left, is a screenshot of the profile page of a WeChat user. It contains the profile picture, the name of the person, their gender, the distance within which they are found, their region, and some other comments that this user may have posted. On the right, we can see the posts of a WeChat user, which are sorted by date and may contain text, pictures, or links to various articles. We trained a special OCR program in order to extract all the possible information we can find in all of these screenshots. Then, we compiled a list of all of our users, classified them by the city where we encountered them, and added all the information that we found. Thus, for each person we have 2 main items: their personal information and their posts. For their personal information, we had their name, their gender, their city, the language that they primarily used, the region, and some personal comments that they wrote. For their posts, we had the dates where they posted, the number of posts they made within the last few weeks, and also we divided the posts between original posts and shared items such as articles, photos, or videos. Before we started analyzing this data, we also tried to enhance it a little, and for this, we first used Google Places API in order to compile a list of all Chinese businesses within our desired range and the cities that we selected. And we also looked at other social media such as Facebook or Twitter and tried to see whether it's possible to profile these users even further by finding their corresponding profiles on these websites. The actual data analysis process was very comprehensive. We began by analyzing the consistency of our data over a 4-week period. We ran multiple tests in each of the 40 cities that we selected, and then we compared the data for consistency across space and time. We then generated various statistics for each person in each individual city and compared the cities to one another. We examined the proportion of Chinese users in each of these cities, and we checked for a correlation between the Chinese diaspora and the distribution of Chinese businesses in these respective areas. We then analyzed the languages that Chinese users tend to use in their posts, and we also extracted the most common topics found in the user's posts in order to better understand the community in each of these cities. I will now present a number of charts that help better illustrate these analyses. For this first chart, we developed our own test statistic, which we used to determine whether the number of users that we find in any particular city across our 4 different tests is constant over time and whether it varies a lot depending on the city. This means that we could conclude that our data is consistent and accurate if each of those 4 bars for any particular city are roughly equal in size, which they are in our case, and if the increase from the city on the furthest left to the city on the furthest right is roughly monotonous, which is also true for our dataset. Our second chart shows the proportion of Chinese WeChat users out of the total population of each of our cities. We scaled the number of Chinese users by 1,000 in order to better visually represent this proportion. One quick observation is that the cities with the highest Chinese population actually tend to have a lower proportion of Chinese WeChat users out of the total city population, while some of the smaller cities actually have a very high proportion of Chinese WeChat users. For our third chart, we used the data we collected using the Google Places API, and we charted the number of Chinese restaurants or other Chinese businesses in general compared to the number of Chinese WeChat users in each of the cities we examined. One might naturally expect there to be a clear regression line between these data points. However, our chart seems to show a rough correlation only between the Chinese WeChat users and the number of Chinese businesses. However, there is no actual clear regression line, which means that the number of Chinese restaurants is not directly related to the number of actual Chinese people living in that particular city, which means both that there are cities which have a bigger passion for Chinese businesses without actually having that many Chinese ethnics living in that area, while also other cities have a very high population of ethnically Chinese people, yet do not have Chinese specific businesses. This last chart shows the languages that Chinese WeChat users used in their posts. We decided to divide the language use into 3 main categories. we found users that primarily use Chinese in their posts, which seem to be predominant in most of the cities. Users that use both Chinese and another language, which oftentimes was actually the language of the city they were living in, or English, and also users who primarily use another language. The number of users who primarily use another language, such as the native language of the place, is pretty small in most cities, with only a couple of interesting exceptions which are worth further analysis. But there is a relatively high number of users that use both Chinese and a different language in their posts in almost all of the cities that we examined. Here are some of the important conclusions that we got from this research project so far. First of all, Chinese users' privacy and anonymity are quite well protected by WeChat. There are a number of security layers, including encryption, which make sure that nobody from the outside can directly get access to Chinese users' data, while also the fact that Chinese users tend to use nicknames on WeChat makes them very hard to profile using other social media. WeChat can, however, be used to profile communities as a whole, because it still shows the general behavior of the people that we're interested in our particular case, the Chinese diaspora. Most importantly, the data that we can collect through WeChat provides unique insight into the Chinese diaspora or any other particular community of our choice, which means that this kind of research has an edge over any kind of traditional research methods such as censuses or surveys, since it can provide us with extra information that is otherwise not readily available. This research project has been an invaluable and really exciting experience for me, and I am even more excited to see what other interesting insights may be gained in the future in the field of social science through the use of social media combined with innovative programming tools. Thank you very much for your attention.